give me just a second to glance out at this incredible group of women that are all Mary Kay leaders. I want to take this image and burn it in my brain so I can live with it for a lifetime. Now, you are an incredible group of ladies, but I want you to just multiply that by 35. Think of the reality of this. In 35 other countries, there are women who also call themselves sales director. Isn't that phenomenal?
Yes.
Well, on its own merit, it's great, but just think of how it started. It started with just one woman. One woman who could, and that was Mary Kay Ash, and she did. Well, I believe that this career is just really offering opportunities, just beginning to offer great opportunities. But for a moment, I'd like to think back 31 years ago, January 4th, I stood in Dallas, Texas on the seminar stage taking my NSD oath. And beside me stood my husband and my 2 children, ages 9 and almost 4 years old. And I have to tell you, it's a moment I will never forget. It was a life-changing opportunity. It was a career-changing opportunity, not only for me, but that decision, that day, has come to allow me to change lives around the globe. Well, I believe that I stand here before you because of 2 very, very incredible leaders. They were leaders that have formed and shaped this company. The first one, my senior, Doretha Dingler, Emeritus National Sales Director. And she was so totally convicted and confident as a sales director that she didn't hear no when I said, no, I'm not really interested, please don't bother me anymore. She just continued to call me, and she encouraged me to attend a company event. Now, I was in a position of only being in the company 9 months at that point, and I was on probation. But she encouraged me to go because I was at a point that I was either going to quit or move up the career path. And she knew that if I got around Mary Kay leaders, my decision would be made. The second was the most incredible woman that we celebrate on this stage, especially near the 50th anniversary, and that's our founder, Mary Kay Ash. At that first event that I attended, Mary Kay came to the stage and shared with us her dream, and she talked about it with such passion. She talked about it with such certainty that it was easy for me to say yes when she leaned across that podium to ask us if we would agree and commit our lives to helping her make her dream become a reality. You know, leadership is a word today that is tossed around. Oh, everybody's a leader. And yes, here we are at Mary Kay Leadership. But what does it really mean to be a leader? John Maxwell says leadership is influence. Mary Kay Ash always said we lead 3 ways: by example, example, example. And what is legacy leadership? We'd like to take a quote from Mary Kay's book of what Mary Kay thought legacy leadership was. Mary Kay, it said, quote, Mary Kay saw into the future and devised a success plan for the sales force. And that plan would serve as a way for the brilliance, her brilliance, to continue illuminating women's lives. So in 1971, the position of National Sales Director was created, the top echelon of the sales force. You know, just a week or, maybe about a week, 10 days ago, I had an opportunity to sit down for lunch with a Mary Kay beauty consultant, relatively new to the business, and she asked me, how do I get from where I am to where you are? And in that moment, I had a flashback in time. I thought about when I signed my agreement. Oh, my goodness. All I wanted when I sat down to sign was a hobby. I didn't want a career. And I didn't want to be a personal use consultant, that's for sure. But they handed me the agreement, 6-page agreement, including a psychological test. We had to rank our traits. Mary Kay asked us what improvement courses had we taken in the last 2 years and where. She asked many things about, you know, what are your traits and rate them, and one was included in it was athletic ability. And you know where I put that, right on the bottom. Well, I thought about that 6-page agreement, but what I really thought about was what they were asking me to do. They were telling me that there was a training that I had to do, and my first steps in the business. And even though I only wanted a hobby, they gave me the same steps. They told me that I needed to, in the agreement on the last page, it said, next to the last page, it said, attend 3 beauty shows with an experienced consultant, and then hold a perfect start. Now that perfect start was not the perfect start definition of today. It was the Mary Kay way. It was book 8 to hold 5 in 2 weeks. And so, that's what I did. Hobby or not, they didn't lower the bar. They just gave me the plan for success. So I began that career, and I did that perfect start in 1 week. And after that week, I slowed down to a hobby pace, 2 a week. So began my Mary Kay career. And then I thought back at when I came home from that first company event that I was going to make my decision to become a director. And as you can see, I did make that decision to move on and to move up. And I asked my director, what is my next step? And she said, do a perfect start. So I did a perfect start. Then a month later, when I had 5 team members, she said, and it's now time for you to start conducting meetings, weekly meetings with your team. And I thought, okay. So I found a room in the back of the church where we could meet. I'd never seen a meeting, I had no idea what I was to do, but she sent me a sheet of paper typed out with an outline of a meeting format. So I began, and I realized when I look back on it that I was being thrust into leadership. I wasn't being asked if I wanted to do it or if I felt like doing it. I was being led to do it. So, back in the day, Mary Kay always said to us, keep it simple. And we did. And I realized that all those things that I was being asked to do were not only helping me to begin my career, but they were going to help me to build my Mary Kay area around the world. And I almost said empire, so forgive me for that. You know, people ask me, how did you do it? How did you build it? And you know, to some it might seem like a very difficult task. To me it was a huge undertaking, but I think it was a little bit simpler than most thought, because I always followed the Mary Kay model. I never got away from the Mary Kay way of doing business. I built the Sunden area through classes, not through grand openings, and not through grand guest nights, and not through conference calls. I built it eyeball to eyeball, belly button to belly button, and toe to toe. I was in their space, not only telling them how, but showing them how to book and sell and rebook, how to keep the business alive. For an example, I went to Korea the first year that I worked there, and on one of my trips, I held, in 1 week, 11 classes, just to train people. You know, we know that people can move up quickly in this company. And sometimes I wonder if it's not just only based on inspirational team building, but instead we have to keep it alive and keep it going for decades, not years, but decades. And so, even though Mary Kay said keep it simple, I know she meant keep it pure Mary Kay and build it from the skincare class forward. I used to say at my training classes, if all of my business went away tomorrow, when I was training consultants, I wouldn't panic. I know I could rebuild it through my classes. So I was blessed to grow up in an era of heroes of Mary Kay. They were the champions. They were the ladies that I watched and I listened to, and I admired, and I aspired to be like. And I'd like to share a few lessons that I learned from them. I learned from, and they're all emeritus now, I learned from NSD Emeritus Helen McVoy, talk in terms of their benefits. It's not about you, it's about their goal. From Doretha Dingler, from Daleen White, inspect what you expect. From Doretha Dingler, if it's working, stay with it. If it's not working, change it now. From Ruby Lee, she taught me to divide and multiply, expand, build in other areas. From Nancy Tejan, to make sure that your people win before they become frustrated. And I would like to share with you what I know about leadership. Number one, you must model it. Monkey see, monkey do. Are they emulating your fashion or your work ethic? Mary said, tell them how, show them how, and let them show you how. Number two, this business is all based on psychology. People will make decisions based on emotion, and people will go where they feel that they're valued, and they will go where they feel they're gaining value. Leadership is influence. Number three, you can't tell someone to do something unless you tell them why and you tell them how. Mary Kay Ash said, you cannot teach what you do not know, and you cannot lead where you do not go. Number four, people want to be accountable to someone. Daily White's inspect what you expect. Number five, people want to know the steps necessary to achieve something. So be clear and give step by step. Keep it simple. Be consistent in your instruction. It doesn't have to be a new idea. So much of leadership so much of your leadership is going to be based on your vision, as well as on your choices of today. Mary Kay Ash chose to influence lives. She chose to enrich them. I personally had a vision of women helping women, a network of women around the globe. I had a vision of passing it on, and we're doing that generation to generation. It's hard to believe that I stand here in front of you in emeritus when I started this business when I was 24 years old. And the journey's been fabulous. The rewards have been great. The lessons have been learned. When I debuted as a new sales director, I had 24 people in my unit, and my first month out, I was on probation. 0 production, to be exact. But I had a vision for the future, a vision to become a national sales director. I wanted my senior's job. She was a brand new national, and I wanted to be with her. So that month, even though we had 0 production, I continued to team build, and I personally brought in 7 people. One of them was my sister-in-law, and she, over the next few years, brought in to her team, signed her up, Pam Gruber Emeritus. And then she invited a young lady named Nancy, and Nancy invited NSD Emeritus Geraldine Nicholson. And then my sister-in-law decided to sponsor, can't say that word, to sponsor an old colleague. And that colleague led us to Jan Mazziotti, NSD, Jan Mazziotti. And my whole area was being built through that month's activity. This wasn't the end, because from those 7 led to NSD Vivian Diaz, and NSD Elite Executive Gloria Castagno. So what I did that month was rely on my dream and my vision, not on my reality. Last year at Leadership, Gloria Mayfield Banks talked about that in her speech. Live in your vision and not in your reality. And I did just that. I'm here to tell you the secret to success is to get back to the perfect start. I'm not telling you to turn into a consultant. I'm asking you, whether you are a consultant or a director or a national sales director, get back to the pure Mary Kay model because it works. My goodness, we are at the pinnacle of success. There are going to be more people stepping up, celebrating success. We have so many more people to reach. But let's don't confuse it. Let's take this masterful plan that Mary Kay created and dare to be great by daring to go back to the basics. You know, last year I ended my speech, and I had 55 seconds. I got to talk fast. Last year I ended my speech talking about a white box. Some liked it, some didn't, so what. This year I found a new box, and it's called Be Amazing. And that's what you are, and that's where we are. And it's not filled with checks, it's filled with words. And if you'll do this and carry this forward, to live simply, be grateful, dream big, live lots, and give love, you too will be that one woman who can. Thank you.